What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing the latest Pokemon to be released in Pokemon Go, Toedscruel, which is a bulky grass and ground type Pokemon and kind of the first usable Pokemon of this typing, as Torterra would very much appreciate a new fast move. But anyways, this Pokemon is supposed to be a convergent species that evolves similar traits to Tentacruel but isn't actually related to it in any way. It's not some kind of regional form, it is its own separate thing. Now this is actually something that occurs in real life too, so this is actually really cool to see in the Pokemon world. Now compared to the team I showcased in yesterday's video, this is a very meta and a much more usable team, and honestly I think Toedscruel will be meta, or at the very least a very strong core breaker to certain teams. So with that being said, let's just get straight into the question of the day. Which Pokemon that has a somewhat unique dual typing do you think would be a strong core breaker against the current Great League meta if it had a better moveset? Let me know in the comment section down below, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Let's go into the first battle, leading Toedscruel into a Shadow Whiscash. So a really positive matchup for us, of course. Gonna resist the ground type damage. The opponent can go for Scald here, which will hit for neutral, but that's okay. Toedscruel, as you will see, is relatively bulky. They're gonna swap into Talonflame, so of course, gonna bank the energy there. Come in with the Shadow Tentacruel, and I'm actually gonna play this matchup really safe. I'm gonna shield the first charge move here, fire off a Scald, potentially looking for a debuff if they do shield here. I actually go for an undercharge just in case the opponent no shields, but they do end up shielding. At this point, I'm going to double shield the Shadow Tentacruel. Potentially, now that they've baited twice with those flies, they might actually win this in the two shield scenario, but I go for Scald, gonna grab that final shield. They swap back into Shadow Whiscash, and that is perfectly fine with me. We can come back in with the Toedscruel. Seed Bomb gets the one shot there as it's double super effective, and the opponent underestimating the energy generation. Wrap gets the KO there, and their final Pokemon gonna be a Azumarill, and this game is absolutely over. I'm going to reach a Seed Bomb on the CMP tie. Seed Bomb is super effective. It doesn't do much damage. Seed Bomb isn't really the best charge attack, but either way, doesn't really matter. Ice Beam, of course, double super effective there. Gets the KO. We can come back in with the Shadow Tentacruel. Don't even need to reveal my third Pokemon. And of course, Sludge Wave gets the KO up against the Azumarill, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's to open there into next battle, Toedscruel into Golisopod. So, we are going to stay in this matchup initially. I was waiting to see if they were on Fury Cutter or Shadow Claw there. The opponent gonna fire off the X-Scissor, but I'm able to catch it onto my Shadow Tentacruel, but they come in with a Dunsparce. So, at this point, I'm gonna shield the first charge move here as they fire off the Draw Run. And now, if I overfarm here, I'm very close to back-to-back scores. If the opponent wants to throw on good timing here, I can get off another charge attack, but no, the opponent does throw straight away. So you know what? I'm actually going to double shield my Shadow Tentacruel, commit to that huge farm down, and they're going to come in with a Kanto Marowak. So this energy is going to be very useful for me. I can fire off back-to-back skulls, likely grab both shields from the opponent. The opponent now going to swap back into their Golisopod. We can come in with the Slowking, and of course, not the best matchup for us. Shadow Claw's hitting for super effective damage, but it doesn't really matter. I can tank one, reach a Shadow Ball from this range will be getting the KO, and there is just nothing this Marowak can do up against the Toedscruel here. We're going to resist everything they can possibly throw. The opponent fires off the Bone Club. It does laughable damage, and so the opponent just concedes the match. So, GG's to open there into the next battle. We're going to see Toedscruel into Wigglytuff. So, of course, I've got two poison types in the bag. Going to be safe swapping into my Galarian Slowking, and I'm baiting out a Morpeko. So, of course, this is fine to see it here. We are going to go for a Surf, grab a shield from the opponent, and I'm definitely just going to no-shield this. Aura Will probably gets the KO here, and it does exactly that. But that's fine with me. We can get a decent farm down here. I will need to shield the next charge route, as Aura Will, whilst they are going to be boosted, it probably won't quite KO here. I might as well just shield anyways, as it would do quite a lot of damage. We can now commit to the full Mud Slap farm down, but the opponent actually not going to allow that. They instead swap into their final Pokemon, a Tropius. Now we can come in with the Shadow Tentacruel, no shield the Leaf Blade. Leaf Blade does decent damage there, but we can fire off with a Sludge Wave, and Sludge Wave, if this does connect, will get the one shot up against the Tropius. They come back in with the Wigglytuff. We will be reaching a Scald before they can fully farm me down. Scald grabs the final shield here, and now all I've got to do is be wary of a potential catch from the opponent. So I'm not going to throw straight away, of course. I'm definitely going to shield this. Icy Wind is double super effective, and I'm actually just going to farm up 2 back-to-back charge attacks here. This will be game over. Wrap gets the KO there. Even if they had a charge move on the Morpeko, we triple resist an Aura Will anyways, and so I'm able to get the Mudslap farm down there and take that game. So, GG's up on there into next battle. We're going to see a Flygon in the lead. So, this is a fairly neutral matchup here. I'm going to no-shield the first charge attack. We are bulkier than the Flygon. And now I'm going to go for a Wrap, because Wrap, whilst it's not going to do too much damage, it will allow me to fully Mudslap farm them down before they reach the next charge attack. The opponent's now going to come in with a Drifblim. And honestly, this is not a Pokemon I even considered when I was making this team. And this is probably the most problematic Pokemon that I faced with this team, and honestly, Slowking is kind of just there because I've not really used it this season, and it did get buffed this season with Acid, of course, and it's kind of like a Tentacruel at home situation with that Acid and then Surf, but yeah, it didn't really do much for me. I think that Psychic typing just didn't help out at all. So potentially, if you did want to run this kind of team, I would run a different Pokemon instead of the Galarian Slowking there. Something that probably isn't weak to the Ghost typing, because you are really going to struggle up against the Drifblim. But I'm able to make the catch here, catching what I assume to be a Skull Bash, and it is. So let's see if we can still come back from this game. I'm farming up to back-to-back charge attacks here, but if the opponent is smart, they should just let this move go through. They do exactly that, and now whilst I will be able to reach back-to-back Skulls, the second one will be reached on the CMP tie with this Drifblim, and unfortunately, Shadow Tentacruel gonna be losing CMP here, and of course, from this range, even Icy Wind gets the KO, and unfortunately, I do lose that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. We're going to see a Talonflame in the lead. So, we're going to be safe swapping into the Slowking, and the opponent responds with a Golurk. But do note, this is a non-Shadow Golurk. So, the opponent no-shields the Surf, and it doesn't really put them into Acid farm down range, as that is double resisted. So, at this point, I'm going to be forced to just let the Slowking go down there. If I shield, they're going to be more likely to farm me down than I can farm them down. So instead, we come in with the Toedscruel. I'm going to reach a Wrap before the opponent does reach a potential charge attack. So Wrap might grab a shield, as this is a new Pokemon. They're not going to be familiar with the moveset. And now I'm hoping I've caught a Flame Charge, and I've done exactly that. And not only that, their final Pokemon is going to be a Wigglytuff. So they are core broken by the Tentacruel. Now that, of course, we've removed the Golurk from the field of play, we go for the Scald there. The opponent probably going to go for an Icy Wind, looking to debuff my attack here, but I think I can still commit to the Acid farm down. It's actually closer than I thought it was going to be, but we've got back-to-back Scalds here. It doesn't really make a difference, as a single Scald will be enough to take out the Talonflame despite that debuff to my attack, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up in there into next battle. We're going to see a Shadow Primeape in the lead. So, if the opponent does farm up to a potential Ice Punch, I will shield respect the damage. But no, they're just going to go straight for a Rage Fist there, which is absolutely fine with me. I can now fire off a Wrap, and Wrap, again, probably going to be shielded by the opponent here. Now I can just shield once and fully commit to that Mudslap farm down. The opponent does actually have access to Ice Punch, so not really sure why the opponent did go for that bait initially, especially since they didn't even farm up to the Ice Punch. But either way, their final Pokemon gonna be a Blastoise. So I swap out there, try to catch the Hydro Cannon, doesn't work, but the opponent ends up throwing a Hydro Cannon anyway, so maybe an indication that the opponent is actually not on Skull Bash, but instead on Ice Beam as the secondary charge move. But either way, Scald grabs a shield there from the opponent. I'm happy to just no shield here. I realize Toedscruel is gonna have a really dominant matchup, and they actually do have Skull Bash. Just for whatever reason, they didn't throw it straight away, and at this point, gonna continue to save my shield here for the Toedscruel. Hydro Cannon doesn't do too much damage. I swap, I try to snipe with the Mudslap damage. It does not work out for me, but doesn't really matter. Wrap gets the KO from that range, and of course, they come back in with the Dene. They can fire off a charge attack here. Doesn't really make a difference. I would shield. The opponent doesn't bother, and as a result, Seed Bomb gets the KO there, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's to opponent there into the next battle. We can see an awkward matchup for us, just because, of course, we are both hitting for super effective fast move damage. I'm actually going to swap out here, catching, well, it probably wouldn't be a Thunder Punch, but no, never mind. It is a Thunder Punch bait, and then they come in with a Shadow Scizor. Now, this is not the matchup we want to see here, especially our Slowking going to take super effective damage from a Night Slash here, and we were hitting for resisted, well, double resisted damage with the Acid. They actually go for the boost there, which is kind of okay with me, me, but we're going to go for a wrap here. Wrap probably going to grab a shield from the opponent. It does exactly that, grabbing that final shield from the Shadow Scissor. I'm now going to use my final shield as they fire off the Night Slash. They swap back into their Typhlosion. I'm able to mud slap farm them down there. They come back in with the Shadow Scissor, and it just depends what they've got in the back. I'm going to continue to overfarm just slightly in this matchup here, going for 2 more acids, firing off the Scald, and what do they have as their final Pokemon? It's going to be a Blastoise, and unfortunately, despite the fact that we are a Shadow Pokemon, Sludge Wave, whilst it will hit very hard, it doesn't get the KO. The opponent able to commit to the roll-up farm down. They come out with a charge attack, and of course, Skull Bash gets the KO from that range, and unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG's to opponent there into next battle. Going to see an Alolan Ninetales in the lead. So regardless of whether they're on Charm or Powder Snow, I'm swapping out anyways. And I'm met with a Feraligatr. So I fire off the Shadow Ball straight away. Shadow Ball going to be no shielded. And I recognized instantly I can shield this. And 4 more acids will get the full farm down before they reach another charge attack. That is huge for me. They're going to come back in with the Ninetales. And they're probably going to have to shield here. So I do bait with the Surf. Surf grabs the shield from the opponent. At this point, I'm going to let the Slowking go down. The opponent fires off a Weather Ball there, which doesn't get the KO. We come in with the Shadow Tentacruel. They swap into the Dedenne, and this is a super hard counter matchup now that we have one switch advantage, and so I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up in there into next battle. You can see a Blastoise in the lead. Of course, if they do have access to Ice Beam, then this could be problematic for me, but again, they're not going to farm up to it, so they fire off the Hydro Cannon, fire with me. They then swap into a Credilli. I'm going to go for Seed Bomb. I don't have a direct answer to Credilli, but I can fire off the Seed Bomb, grab a shield there from the opponent. I think that was the only time where I threw a Seed Bomb into Credilli initially, and they ended up shielding it. Every time I went for Wrap there, they did no shield, which of course is resisted anyways, but it does drop the defense. So either way, we fire off the Shadow Ball, and at this point, I realized I don't really need the Slowking that much. The opponent is going to fire off the Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb, unfortunately, puts me into Bullet Seed farm down range. But that's okay, we can come back in with the Toedscruel. I'm going to overfarm by 2 Mud Slaps here, throw on CMP, but we end up losing CMP, and I looked this up before this battle. Toedscruel should be winning CMP here, unless they have like a really attack-weighted Credilli, which is obviously not impossible, but it's just unusual. So anyways, we are going to see a Mandibuzz as their final Pokemon, so we still have play here. However, Toedscruel not going to be able to do much anyway, so the fact that, of course, we did tank a Rock Tomb doesn't really hinder us too much. We can shield the Hydro Cannon. I did just play it safe there, as of course Skull Bash going to be the hardest hitting move remaining on the field of play here. They come back in with the Mandibuzz. I'm able to fire off the Scald before they throw, and I do debuff their attack there. So of course, I can now no shield. They actually go for a Shadow Ball, which is very unusual to see from a Mandibuzz. At this point, I don't expect another Shadow Ball, so actually no shield this. I'm going to farm up too close to the Sludge Wave, fire off a Wrap on the CMP type, which is huge for me, and of course, Wrap is going to be debuffing their defense there. I think even a Scald will get the KO from this range. However, I'm going to play this safe anyways. Full send the Sludge Wave here. And of course, a Sludge Wave will certainly take out the Mandibuzz. And I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. We're going to see Toedscruel into a Shadow Dragonite. So, of course, not a very good matchup for me in the slightest. Going to be safe swapping into Slowking, and they are staying in. What I don't want to do is shield here and then be met with a hard counter. So, I'm actually going to no-shield that, fire off a Shadow Ball, and at the very least, I will grab a shield advantage. But, of course, now they can just Dragon Breath farm me down. I'm going to wait out my switch clock here, come in with my Shadow Tentacruel, commit to 1 shield, and then looking to go for a full acid farm down. Now the opponent is going to fire off the Dragon Claw there, and they're going to swap into a Credilli. So, of course, they're running a Flying-type Pokemon in the lead. I'm expecting Toedscruel will have more play in the back, so I will just be preserving it here. I'm happy to no-shield this. They're probably going to go for a Rock Tomb, which I can tank. And now I could commit to a farm down, but instead we're going to get an energy advantage on the Toedscruel. But that backfires immediately, as they've actually got Talonflame as their final Pokemon. I'm firing off the Wrap. Wrap going to grab the final shield from the opponent. The opponent looking to clear the debuff. We will get a full Mud Slap farm down, but will Tentacruel actually reach a Scald before they can reach back-to-back charge attacks? Wrap is, of course, going to be no-shielded. We come in with that Shadow Tentacruel. I believe they are 1 away from the next charge move, and unfortunately, they can just barely outpace me. I do live the Incinerate damage, but Flame Charge takes out the Shadow Tentacruel, and unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG's up on there into next battle. Great lead matchup for me, leading into a Gastronaut. Of course, I'm resisting the mud slap damage, and I do have access to Seed Bomb here. I'm happy to just no-shield whatever they throw. The opponent full Sense and Earth Power, probably not realizing that I am also a Grass-type Pokemon there. So, of course, I resist it. Seed Bomb easily gets the one-shot. They're going to come in with a Talonflame. I'm going to bank the Wrap Swap into my Galarian Slowking, and I'm met with a Shadow Ampharos. So I'm firing off the Surf here. Surf not going to get the KO, but it does get them fairly low to the point where, of course, I can come in with the Toedscruel, fully Mud Slap, farm them down. Brutal Swing gets the KO there, but that's absolutely fine. We can come back in with that Toedscruel, commit to the Mud Slap, farm down. I don't want to throw straight away just in case the opponent does commit to an extra Incinerate. I'm going to go for one Mud Slap now, fire off the Wrap, and then instead of throwing the next Wrap, I will actually just bank this, as debuffing their defense will mean that the acids put them into farm down range and potentially Wrap range as well. So here, I'm going to shield this up here. I'm now going to commit to the Scald, and this will be game over. If they shield this up, then they're going to need back-to-back charge attacks to take out both the Tentacruel and the Toedscruel. They don't get there, and so we're able to acid, farm them down, and take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. We're going to see a Shadow Jumpluff in the lead. We Safe Swap into our Slowking and immediately met with a Shadow Swampert. They didn't even wait to see what came in. They knew I was going to be swapping out, as that is just such a bad matchup for me. And they hard punish me. So I'm thinking the best thing I can do here is play out the one shield scenario and grab a shield back from the opponent, as realistically I do kind of need shields down. I'm expecting probably going to be double Mud Boys in the back here, so it's honestly not looking too good for me. But I'm going to no shield the first charge attack here. I will need to throw a charge move to get the KO. I'm going to fire off the Wrap just in case the opponent did try to make a catch there onto Jumpluff. But either way, we swap and it is going to be double Mud Boys. They've got a Shadow Quagsire as their final Pokemon. And even worse, they're running Mud Bomb. That does huge damage. There's literally nothing I can do there. And so I'm just going to concede the match. But GG's up on there into the next battle, and we're going to see a Unnovan Stunfisk in the lead. So a great lead matchup for me. The opponent's going to Safe Swap into Galistopod, and I didn't realize this at the time, but the final Pokemon for this team is going to be a Drifblim. So whilst so far this is looking really comfortable for me, Drifblim, as I mentioned already in the video, does cause me a ton of problems, completely walling the moveset of the Toedscruel, and of course being very dominant up against the Slowking, and even having a good matchup up against the Shadow Tentacruel. So we fire off the Scald there. We've got a shield advantage. I'm actually gonna just no shield this as they fire off the Mud Bomb there. I'm gonna come back in with the Toedscruel, and they do swap out straight away, but they are on Hex, so Astonish, probably just game over. They can just fast move farm down the rest of my team. But since they're on Hex, and since they throw straight away, I'm able to catch the Icy Wind here. That is going to be neutral damage. We are now going to commit to an overfarm here, making sure we throw on good timing. The opponent also looking to overfarm. Surf grabs the final shield from the opponent, and it doesn't look like I will reach a Shadow Ball, but I'm going to shield this anyways. The opponent will now be able to swap out of this matchup. They come back in with their Unnovan Stunfisk. So I fire off the Surf. Surf doesn't do too much damage now that I have been debuffed, but it puts them into Mud Slap farm down range. And as well, Toedscruel completely walls the charge moves here from this Unnovan Stunfisk. So I'm going to no-shield both charge moves. I'm going to come out with a Seed Bomb loaded. I'm throwing straight away. I need to get this off before they debuff my attack with the Icy Wind. And Seed Bomb is resisted damage there, but hopefully that puts them into range where I can Mud Slap farm them down. It's going to be close, but we do get that Mud Slap farm down, taking them out with the Toedscruel, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. We're going to see a Morpeko in the lead. So, we are going to stay in, and the opponent having no clue what to do up against the Toedscruel there. They do bank an Aura Wheel, I believe, before swapping out. Seed Bomb does decent damage there. I'm now going to swap into my Shadow Tentacruel. Possibly going to go on for a slight overfarm there, looking to catch potentially an Ice Punch, but either way, it doesn't really matter too much. What I don't really want to do is go down a shield here, so I'm happy to actually lose switch advantage, but grab a shield advantage in this matchup, just because I know Toedscruel has such a dominant matchup up against Morpeko, and they clearly don't have an amazing answer to it, just because they would have swapped out sooner. But anyways, I can no-shield the first charge move here. The opponent is just going to go for a Psychic Fangs, and let's see what their final Pokemon is. Oh, excuse me there. The opponent's going to come in with a Credilli, so I'm going to go for a Seed Bomb here, and Seed Bomb does actually get no shielded, so I guess I was lying at the start when I said that Seed Bomb was shielded and Rat was no shielded, but either way, we're going to fire off the Surf here, and I recognize straight away I don't need to shield the Shadow Slowking, or sorry, the Galarian Slowking. I can no shield this first move, they fire off the Rock Tomb, they can fire off the next move straight away, but this is still perfectly fine with me. Toedscruel can just come back in, go for a full Mud Slap farm down, and there's literally nothing more Peko can do. We're up 2 shields, and so the opponent just concedes the match. So, GG's opponent there into the next battle. You can see Toedscruel into Unova and Stunfisk. So, for some reason, I've put these battles out of order, but this is the first time I saw this team. So, we're going to play this out pretty similar to how we played it out last time. Actually, last time the opponent did stay in that lead matchup for a little bit longer, but either way, doesn't really matter. I'm going to throw a Scald, and I didn't throw a Wrap this time around because they did swap out a bit sooner. But Scald, whilst it is resistant damage, will put them into Acid Farm Down range. So we commit to the Farm Down there. If they come back in with a Stunfisk, this is perfectly fine with me. I can fire off that Scald, and Scald gonna hit for super effective damage. It does big damage. They do get a huge Farm Down there, and here it is, the Drifloon, and this time they are on Astonish. I go for Wrap, maybe expecting to grab a shield anyways. The opponent actually no shields that, potentially knowing the charge moves or just thinking that we wouldn't have anything that can hit for any meaningful damage, and as a result, this is gonna be game over. We are down, obviously, a shield now. We go for the Surf there. Surf does grab a shield, but I just can't do much. Either I shield this up, they farm me down, they throw an Icy Wind to take out the Toedscruel, or I no shield this, and I just can't really touch them either. So either way, we are going to lose this game. I'm going to shield anyways, hoping the opponent will now swap into their final Pokemon, but no, they're going to overfarm, eventually swap, catch the charge attack here. And yeah, I can go for an undercharge, but the Astonish damage has actually put me into range where a single Mud Bomb will get the KO. So Mud Bomb takes us out there, and unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG's opponent there into the final battle of this video, leading into a Lapras. So we're going to stay in this lead matchup here. The opponent is not going to farm up to the Ice Beam, so I'm definitely just going to no-shield this. The opponent fires off the Sparkling Aria there before swapping into Golisopod. So once again, going to fire off the Wrap here since I do have the energy. We are going to see a no-shield, but it doesn't really matter too much. We can come in with that Shadow Tentacruel. We can tank 2 charge attacks and then commit to a full Acid Farm Down. Aqua Jet honestly does decent damage here, but they're not going to be able to farm me down after a second Aqua Jet. So of course, gonna no shield once again, commit to that farm down, and potentially I can reach back-to-back Scalds up against the Lapras. But you know what? Let's just guarantee some big damage, and the opponent does end up no shielding the Sludge Wave. I'm actually gonna come in with my Galarian Slowking, looking to Acid Farm them down here, and we're actually able to get that farm down, but their final Pokemon is gonna be a Claydol, and this is a little bit tricky for me. I think Toedscruel is slightly too low here, where if I swap into it, the opponent, if they're really smart, they're not gonna throw a charge attack, and instead, they're going to commit to a full Mud Slap farm down. So I fire off the Rat Bait there, expecting to grab the final shield, but the opponent able to get that farm down there, which is huge for them. But I've still got 2 shields here, and even if they throw back-to-back charge attacks at good timing, which they don't actually throw another Mud Slap here, we should be fine. We're going to be double debuff, but I've also dropped their defense, and I can reach a Shadow Ball. And of course, Shadow Ball is super effective. Shadow Ball gets the KO there, and I'm able to take that game. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. Now, if you want to take your support to the next level, you can become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments of every video. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has become a channel member already. Your support is greatly appreciated. And with that being said, thank you so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.